Hello and welcome back to MultiVendorX. Today's video is all about MultiVendorX PDF invoice module. We are sure you may be familiar with this. We get this whenever we receive our Amazon or FedEx packages. This is an invoice. The invoice acts as a physical proof of any transaction taking place. MultiVendorX lets you create and manage your own invoice. So let's get a glimpse of how MultiVendorX invoice management works. As in the case with most MultiVendorX configuration, we will first go to MultiVendorX and enable the invoice and packaging slip from order management of module submenu. Again, from the dashboard, navigate to MultiVendorX settings and finally scroll down and select the invoice tab. Once we are redirected to the tab, we can see that there are different sets of settings available. The first set of settings manages the basic format and information present on the invoice slip, the admin template settings. You as an admin can adjust the kind of information you want to be displayed on the PDF slip. Customer template setting. As an admin or a site owner, you can feel that there must be some details relevant to you but not the customers. For example, payment method. The means of making a payment is relevant as it will track and see which mode of payment is more popular and adjust accordingly. But this is just an example. However, the customer template setting lets you manage the information you want to be displayed on customers. The admin can decide how the customers, vendor, or admin itself can view the PDF invoice from their respective accounts, whether they can directly download it or view it in the browser itself. Now let's look at them one at a time. The very first setting comes the PDF output, which refers to how or where the customer or vendors can view the invoice. Here the invoice form has to be downloaded by the customer or vendor before it can be viewed. An alternate tab opens on the vendor or customer's website displaying the PDF template. In this field, you can select the size of the invoice. The options provided to you would be either A4 size or a letter size. PDF orientation refers to the page layout. You can either select a portrait, vertical, or a landscape horizontal layout for your invoice. With this option, you can decide when to generate and send the invoice by selecting an email action from the action to email option. Few conditions include: when you select the disable option, both the customer and the vendor will not receive an invoice slip. The disable option is usually enabled by default. Selecting the new order option implies customers would receive an invoice slip as soon as they place an order. If the cancelled order option is selected, then the customers would receive an invoice only after their order gets cancelled. When you select the processing order option, the customers will receive the invoice as soon as the vendors start processing the customer's order. The option allows the customer to receive an invoice as soon as the vendor delivers the order. If this option is selected, the customers would receive an invoice after receiving a refund. This option sends the customer a refund mail as soon as possible, irrespective of the order statuses. You can also set the default template. We will get back to this when I explain the admin settings. To show as an example how the invoice slip generally looks, for now let us set it to default template 3. Now back to this. You can either show or hide the GST, tax, vendor signature, vendor policy, invoice number that is generated. An invoice number is a unique set of numbers used to track payments. By enabling this option, your invoice slip will contain an invoice number. The invoice number format is usually arranged as the first series of numbers containing the date, the second series of numbers containing the customer number, and the third series of number containing the sequential unique identifier for the invoice. You can choose to add the current year or month as a prefix by simply copying or writing year or month from the description provided below. And finally, set the logo of your website. By the way, vendor can override this command and add their personalized logo. Under the admin template section, here is certain information you can add or minus by selecting the following option. To let a customer or a vendor view the subtotal of an entire transaction, select this option. In case a vendor or you offer a discount and the customer purchases the product as a discounted price, you can include that bit of info by selecting this option. Keeping count of all your tax details is always a good idea. Definitely take this option. Free shipping or shipping rate. If this information confuses you, it's always a good idea to have this option ticked. As stated above, keeping a close eye on what payment mode is, never choose to untick this option. Finally, terms and conditions. I know the unread part, but keeping your vendors and customers posted about the site terms and condition is quite important. Swipe right to enable Show Customer Note option in case a customer has added some vital information about the product that they have purchased. Suppose the customer said, "I live in a snowy place, package my order with a plastic wrap." If you have followed the customer request and are not shy of showing, you can do this. Next is the customer settings section. Here you can take decision like attaching the PDF to a customer email once certain conditions are fulfilled. We have just gone over this a few minutes ago. You can return to that part by dragging your video backwards. But to put it, simple PDF will be generated to the customer ID only when one of the above order statuses are selected. Now we shall be moving on to when a customer can view the invoice in My Account page. Letting the customer view the order will depend on few order statuses like Disable. This means that the customer will not be able to see the PDF invoice option from their My Account page. This status is displayed when payments that are scheduled to take place at a certain time but are yet to be completed. Processing order statuses implies that the vendor has received their payment and the order is about to deliver to the customer. This status is given when the transaction is yet to be completed from either the vendor's end or the customer's end. Once again, this order status is reflected when the transaction is completed from the customer end and the order is delivered from the vendor's end. Once again, an order is cancelled, the order request is removed from the list and no further action can be taken. These statuses can be applied when the customer's refund request is accepted and granted. Finally, the last option when all the transactions fail and no order reaches the customer. Customer can see suborder invoices in My Account order only when the admin sets the order. This option is similar to the one shown above, just that every suborder for you is a main order for every individual vendor, so select accordingly. Next, you can add or subtract the information you want the customers to see by selecting the following options like subtotal, discount, tax, shipping, payment method, and terms and conditions. Since I feel all this information are kinda important, I am going to go ahead and select all of them. Select the customer note option if you want the customers to know you have accepted the request or instruction given by the customers. Enable packaging slip, the one setting important to all vendors. Enable this option if you want vendors to download and select packaging slip during shipping. After configuring all these details, let's see how vendors do their invoices. To do so, go to the dashboard and click on PDF Invoice under the Store Setting tab. Once redirected to the PDF Invoice page, now the vendors can edit all the information provided here. Like the admin, the vendor can also set their invoices style and can select their preferred template from the drop-down menu. Oops, looks like I had forgotten to show you how the invoice template looks. Well, don't worry, we will do it now from the vendor dashboard. As you can see, the template invoice slip contains informations like vendor detail, invoice number, invoice date, order number, order date with the payment method. From here you can view the item details as well. Lastly, you can view the terms and conditions. As all of the settings are the same like we did from the admin end, so we will just not bore ourselves by going through all the details all over again. The vendors also have the capability to add all the predefined settings made by the admin. Complete the settings from the vendor's end by clicking onto the Save option to update your preferences. This was all about the PDF configuration. Now let's understand how to download and view the invoices. At first, let's understand how the admin can view them. The admin can download the PDF invoice for order by simply going to WooCommerce orders and then clicking onto the specific order whose invoice or packaging slips needs to be downloaded or viewed. Once redirected, by clicking onto the PDF invoice option, the admin can view the invoice. Also, to view the packaging slip, the admin needs to click here. Surprisingly, under the PDF invoice, we cannot see any invoice detail such as invoice number and invoice date. So you must be wondering how that can be viewed, isn't it? Back to the order page, under the PDF invoice number and date section, you can view the specific order number against whom the invoice is generated. The admin can manually enter the invoice number with the invoice date and time. As we know, a separate invoice is sent to the vendor again. The vendor needs to enter the invoice number with the date and time, which can be viewed from their end. Again, let's view the PDF invoice and try to spot the changes. Yes, now we can see the invoice details are visible the way they should be. Second, the vendor can download the invoice from their order tab in the vendor dashboard by clicking onto the PDF icon. Also, if the admin has enabled the packaging slip option from the PDF invoice settings, the vendors will be able to download the packaging slips as well. As discussed earlier, the customers can view their invoices only when the specific order statuses is set by the admin. The customers can download the invoices from their My Account page. Once redirected, then go to the order. Now under the sub-order invoice column, you can view the invoice against the specific order that is generated. Now let's click on this order to view the invoice. As shown at the starting of the video, the MultiVendorX PDF invoice looks exactly like this. Was not the tutorial interesting? With this, we have come to the end of our video. If you like the tutorial, then do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. Click onto the small red bell to get notified whenever we post a new video. Thank you for watching.